I've been on sets where I'm watching a director work and I'm like, how in the world did this person land that? Like, they have no idea what they're doing.
How do you become a professional director if no one will give you a chance?
No, that's such a good question. And I think that's the question that everyone asks every day. Like, how in the world do you do it? You know, 2 nights ago, I was just having dinner with 2 filmmaking friends. One was a producer director, the other was a director. We asked ourselves the exact same question. The maddening question of how in the world do you get in, break in, get work? I do think that there are ways to do it. But the first thing, I think there's multiple steps. And the first step is to understand that there is no way. There is no path. You know, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, there is a set A, B, C, D to do it, right? You know, you go to school for X amount of years, you get your residency, you do your entry. They have mapped it out for you. That's not like that in film. And I'm often asked, how did you do it? Well, or someone will say, should I go do the DGA program and like go up that route? Sure. That there is that way of doing it. You can go there are certain, courses that they'll have lined out, like different networks will do it. Like Warner Brothers might have their little internal program and you can go in and study under somebody and work your way up. If that works, great. That is a way. Should you make an indie film? Yes, sure. If you can do it and pull that off, and that is a way. But it's not a guaranteed way. That's super important to understand. I heard a screenwriter describe it once as, it's like we're all blind men with our hands against a wall trying to find a way into the magic kingdom. And we're all feeling our way along. And one of us we'll find a crack and we'll slip through. But the problem is the crack closes behind us. So we can't turn around and tell anyone behind us, oh, get in that way. No, that was yours specific weird path in getting in, and that's it. So I think, how do you get in? I think the first step is understanding that there really isn't a set path. It's just however you can get to point B, do that. That's so vague. I know that's vague. I'm aware, and it's maddening. I think there's a second important step to this. I would say that the trap that I fall into and a lot of us filmmakers fall into is well, how did John get that job? That thing. I've been on sets where I'm watching a director work and I'm like, how in the world did this person land that? Like, they have no idea what they're doing. The minute your brain starts to go down that path, especially when you're around your artist friends, and you all start to spiral in this, why in the world is so-and-so working and I'm not, it is a maddening exercise. It is a exercise in frustration, and there is no joy at the end of it. And you will never find an answer because it doesn't make sense, I think it's very important to watch your mental attitude when it comes to that kind of thing. And the reason why is because if you start thinking about that kind of thing all the time, you are going to start to project a negative kind of energy, and that's the kind of thing people pick up on. If you're interviewing for that gig and you're feeling extremely frustrated that no one's brought you on, you may not even talk about it, but it's going to be there if you've allowed your mind to circle around that drain. So I would say immediately, you got to turn that off and stop trying to make sense out of this madness. More practical steps, though. I think that the first thing is you have to generate a lot of work. Now, that's going to sound like, what do you mean? I thought that the answer, I'm asking you, how do I get into a place where I'm generating a lot of work? Yes, in order to generate a lot of work, you kind of have to already do it on your own. But that doesn't mean movies. That doesn't mean you have to be making movies or television shows. Because, little secret, my reel that you can look at the vast majority of the things on that reel are not movies or television shows. They are other side projects, other little things that look cinematic. They're just not part of any kind of project that you will ever see. And there's really cool ways to do that. And I had a really big epiphany. And I know last time I was interviewed here, I talked about this, where I had been trying to be a filmmaker for 100 years. You know, I was just struggling and I found that I was angry all the time. I was shooting a lot of live corporate events where I'm just literally the camera guy in the middle of the arena, like panning left and panning right by some speaker, walking back and forth on the stage, giving the annual report on, you know, boring corporate. I'm wearing a suit and tie. I am so far away from being on set where it's exciting and there's explosions and all of this. I am just twisted and angry, and it was not a life, it was not an existence that I would ever want to go back to. And I realized one day, as I was in the middle of making a training film for, I think it was for like a shipping company, like how to, like, you know, package something. It was like as dry as it gets. And then I watched the movie Jurassic Park. And in Jurassic Park, you know, that movie came out when? It was late 90s? Is that safe to say? Somewhere early 2000s, late 90s? Somewhere. It's over 20 years old, right? There's a scene in that movie about how dinosaurs are made. You remember this scene? Mr. DNA, the little DNA cartoon, comes out and it's explaining to the audience how dinosaurs are made. And the characters in the movie are all sitting in their little seats, and it's like a little roller coaster ride. I don't know if you remember that scene, but they're all asking questions to the animated thing, and the host of the park is talking to the cartoon. Well, 65 million years ago, a mosquito would land on a dinosaur and suck out some of the blood. And that mosquito would get trapped in the sap of a tree. Well, that sap is now called amber. What that is a corporate training film directed by Steven Spielberg. Here's the amazing thing about that scene. That film is like 20 some years old, and it's a scene that most people remember. It's stuck in their mind. You get the things, what stands out to you from Jurassic Park? Well, when the T-Rex breaks through the gate and the whole velociraptor's chasing them. Oh yeah, and Mr. DNA. That one stands out. And at the moment when I was watching it back then, I was like, I wonder if Steven Spielberg was all pissed off and angry when he had to direct this part of his movie. I'm pretty sure he wasn't. I think Spielberg went, okay, I have to find a way to communicate boring material to my audience. Any superhero movie has to do the same exercise, by the way. Any sci-fi fantasy, you have to do the same thing. You have to explain the tech or the superpower to the audience in an entertaining way. It's no different than I have to talk about harassment in the workplace video that I have to make. I mean, these are the working professionals have to do this kind of stuff. And I realized that, well, what if I, in my training film, just pretended that it was part of a larger narrative? What if it just so happens in my little film about how to properly package a shipping container, what if I made that and pretended it was part of Jurassic Park? How would I approach that differently if it was? It was an internal switch, but at that moment, everything changed, because when I would show up to shoot it, I wasn't just going, oh, just throw the light over there and, you know, I mean, we just got to just pan and scan the boxes. No, it became, how can I make this box look cool? It's a box, you know? How can I, maybe if I brought a little Dana dolly or do a little swooping camera move with some sound effects and you know, you all of a sudden you're directing a scene. That's direct, and it changed the look of my little tiny corporate films. It changed and the clients started to see this excitement when I would come to shoot their product, because how cool is it for them that someone is actually thrilled to be there shooting the most boring, dry stuff you can imagine. It changed everything for me. That one decision started to open the door to other projects just like it. And eventually, and even today, I now have a niche where I create narrative films for corporations. They're like little short films, but they're big budget short films that I'm getting to, it's no different than a movie, working with actors, writing a script, coming up with concepts, shooting, and I got a thing coming up that's set in 200 AD with Roman soldiers, like all because it's a corporate thing. It's all because of that one decision to, I'm going to pretend that everything I'm doing is part of this fun, magical cinematic universe, even if it's an interview with a CEO. You know, is there a way I can make this, you know, how would Deakins shoot this CEO talking about how he started the company? It's fun. Suddenly it becomes fun and great. And that kind of thing can immediately start adding a lot of work to your reel.